I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and I want to thank all of our panelists and speakers for participating in this quarterly mini jam. These events have been wildly successful for us, helping to drive almost 850,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel. And of course, we are continuing to build the always-on community site at InsideJam.com, where you can connect with experts like you'll see today, along with colleagues and peers, and continue the conversation around enterprise technology. If you haven't already joined InsideJam.com, please do. And if you have, please invite a colleague to join as well. Thank you very much for being here, and enjoy this event.
Solutions Review presents the Inside Jam Expert Keynote.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Thompson. I'm the Senior Vice President of Gen AI Products and the Gen AI practice at the Hacker Group. Previously, I was the Global Head of AI at EY, and then I've worked at Dell and IBM and a few other companies over my career as well. I've been focused on AI for 38 years now. I am a professor at the University of Michigan, and those are the 5 books I've written behind me over my shoulder there. So today, we're going to talk about agents. Agents today, agents tomorrow. What do you need to know now is really where we're going to focus on this keynote in the next half hour or so. So excited to be here, excited to have this conversation. So started working on predictive AI decades ago, started working on natural language processing about 6-7 years ago. And we're building interesting applications and trying to understand how far we can push the process automation. It's quite interesting to talk to people because many people want to be involved in automation and automate different processes, and they fall back into a conversation about something like remote process operation or robotic process operation, or most people talk about it as RPA. And I say that's an interesting approach. RPA is evolving, and the people in the RPA space will probably be unhappy with me the way I'm characterizing it, but it's pretty much, static automation. You set up some rules. If this number is this, it branches this way. If it reaches that threshold, it branches that way. It's pretty simple stuff, but we've really broken out of that at this point. So if you're thinking about agents and process automation, try to, break out of the mindset of RPA at this point. So I like to talk about agents, as being capable of doing anything a person can do. And when I usually bring that up in an in-person event, someone raises their hand and says, okay, well, if an agent can do anything a person can do, can they spend money? The answer is yes. Can they bind us to a contract? The answer is yes. Can they make offers in the live marketplace that people can commit to and execute? Yes. So anything a person can do, an agent can do. And that does worry some people. The great thing about it is that you control agents. So you don't really allow agents to run wild, just like you wouldn't allow employees to run wild. And how do we control employees? We give them training. We expose them to policies, things like the code of conduct, a table of the ability to spend money, things that they can actually execute themselves, or things that they need to escalate up to their manager, all the way up the line, hierarchically up the line until someone has the authority to execute it. Agents are no different. So, many people let their imaginations run wild about agents and say, oh my gosh, they're going to bankrupt the company. Well, if you build agents in a uncontrolled way, that could actually happen, but I don't think it happens very often. We certainly haven't heard about that in many instances. So agents today, you want to start out, and many people are doing this. The leaders are certainly doing this. We did it at EY. We're doing it at the Hacker Group, where we build simple agents. And simple agents have the ability to work on a prompt and response metaphor, just like Gen AI systems do. You prompt the agent, it senses the environment, it brings in information, it looks at the internal operations and code in the agent, and it does whatever you ask it to do. book airfare, book hotel rooms, change meetings, look for the best price on Amazon. Whatever you want your agent to do, it can do that. Take 16 pictures, take 16 headshots of me from around the internet and coalesce it and come up with the best looking headshot you possibly can. Agents can do all those different things. So, we're moving forward. We're in 2025 now. Intelligent or simple agents, widely spread, widely proliferated. Now we're moving into intelligent agents, and that's where agents can do a lot more. Stringing together different agents. Now, the thing about stringing together agents is that, in Gen AI and AI as well, any probabilistic system, whether it's predictive or foundational AI or Gen AI, there's a level of accuracy there. Let's just say that the level of accuracy is 92%. And you happen to have 5 different agents working, and they're all using, for the sake of simplicity, they're all using the same Gen AI model, large language model behind it, or an ensemble of models. And it's, you have 92% accuracy, you have 5 of them. That comes out to be about 65% accurate. And if you add another one, that's 60% accurate, and you keep going on, adding, and the level of aggregate accuracy drops. So soon you're down to almost the same level of accuracy as random events. So you have to be careful about when you're stringing together different agents and different processes and things of that nature. So, what I'm saying here is that these intelligent agents need to be controlled. And as I said earlier, you can control agents the same way you control people. And how would you do that? You ask your employees to take training. You can ingest all the training material into a retrieval augmented generation environment. With the new models, you can ingest them into the context window. You could fine tune the model. You can do all sorts of different ways to get models to do what you want them to do. And again, I'm going to come back to it. What I want you to do is think about how you control your employees. Use those same techniques and technologies and approaches to control your models, which are at the heart of your agents. So, you're controlling the models through the fine tuning or the RAG or the wrapping or, whatever you're doing with the model. Then you also, in the agents, you have process control as well. So if you're really concerned about an agent committing you or your organization to something that might be out of bounds of reasonability, make the agent ask before it commits. So every time you get to a point of where an agent is going to spend money or make an offer or commit to a contract or whatever, have the agent ask a person. Inject human in the loop control into the agent process flow. So that gives you information control, process control, policy control. There's lots of ways that we can control these agents, which is quite easy to do. So at this point, simple agents are widespread. We know they're all over the place and everywhere. Intelligent agents are coming along quickly, and people are building them in a pretty, I wouldn't say prolific, but they're happening on a regular basis. And then we have polymorphic agents, which is where an agent builds its own self. Which is kind of freaky if you think about it, but it does work. We have done it. We have tried it. We have tested it. And the idea is that you have an objective. Let's just say the objective is the agent actually, wow, that was interesting. The agent actually builds itself. So you have an objective function. You say, okay, I want this agent to not only book, but manage my travel anywhere I go. So let's just say that I'm going to book a trip to London from Chicago. I always fly on American Airlines out of O'Hare. That's an easy one. The agent can go find, the American flights that go to London and the time frame and the dates that I'm interested. It can book that. But then you say, okay, I don't really want to take the time and build the rest of the agent. I want the agent to do it itself. So I give it the objective of booking and managing this entire trip. So the agent looks at it and says, okay, the first step I have is airfare. The next thing I need to do is to build an agent that books hotel rooms and then books ground transportation. And you can take it as far as you want. You can have it book your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, your personal meetings, your shopping time, your time at theaters, your entertainment, your, hanging out with friends, whatever you want. So the way you tell the agent, you give it the objective as far and as broad as you want it to go, and then the agent starts to build subsequent sub-agents in that workflow. We actually did it where we gave it 3 of the initial agents we built manually. We gave it the objective and we let it go, and it built about 12 additional sub-agents in and of itself. Now, let's keep in mind, everybody tends to take these things to the nth degree. So those additional 12 agents weren't perfect. They didn't work very well. They weren't scalable. They weren't efficient. They didn't have all the functions we wanted in it. They didn't look at all the information on the internet and various sources we were interested in. And it's very similar to generating code with Gen AI as well. People are always out there saying, developers are going to be, obsolete in 2026 or 2027 or whatever date you want to put on it. And Gen AI is going to generate all this information or all this code. It will generate all that code, that's for sure. But my experience shows me and illustrates that about 20, maybe 30% of that code is usable. And most of that code is for simple things like housekeeping, setting up, environments, connecting APIs, different things like that. But when you get to sophisticated logic and complicated processing, it doesn't generate very good code. Not only does it not scale, it generally doesn't work either. So, at this point, we all have to keep in mind that what we're generating with Gen AI is a good start. It's a good first draft. And agents are no different than anything else. So we can generate really simple agents and they work pretty well and they'll scale up and we have a few people using them, but we're certainly not going to generate an agent and not review it and then put it out there and let hundreds of thousands or millions of people hit it, because the first thing it's going to do is fall over or it's going to fail, and it's not going to fail gracefully either. So we need to be careful about what our expectations are. So I hear a lot of people talking about agents, hey, I licensed this tool, whatever it happens to be, off the shelf. It was point and click, low code, no code. I did a few things. It did this function for me, did that function for me. But I wanted to do this really complicated application that requires, 10, 12 steps and 13 or 14 different systems and, numerous APIs and formatted, the UI in a certain way. And it didn't do very well. Not surprised. What you've described there is going from a low code, no code environment to a very complicated custom environment. And you're trying to do it with a tool that's not capable of doing that. That's pretty much the landscape across the entire Gen AI marketplace right now, is that we see people offering tools, companies offering tools that are simple to use, easy to use, and some are quite expensive, as a matter of fact, but you can't really expect those to take you all the way down the road. So anyway, that applies to agents as well. So far, we've talked about simple agents, we've talked about intelligent agents, we've talked about polymorphic agents. Now, polymorphic agents, let me set it. I always want to make sure I'm setting expectations correctly. Polymorphic agents do exist, but they don't exist in the general marketplace. You can actually do this, but you have to do it with very, it's early stage technology, I guess is the best way to say it. Some of it's not even generally available. So you're actually innovating. You're driving innovation and you're doing some science projects is really what you're doing. So, polymorphic agents, I don't really expect to be something that we see widespread, being able to be built with commercially available widespread tools until probably 2027 or 2028. So it's 2 or 3 years from now. You can certainly be experimenting and playing around with and getting early experience with the technology, but I wouldn't expect it to be right there with you tomorrow. I'm going to take a quick drink of water. My throat's getting a little dry. So let's move on. We've got the structure of the agents, intelligent agents and simple and polymorphic. Now, we haven't talked about multiple agents. It's been implicit in some of the remarks that, workflows are going to have multiple agents in them. So, like I said, you're going to have an agent that books airfare, book hotels, book meetings, and manage that too. So you expect that these agents are not like applications or something like that we've solutions that we've seen in the past. They're actually sensing, the environment, whether that's people that you're meeting with and them sending emails or direct messages or Slack or SharePoint or any kind of notifications that come to you via your social media or Outlook or Google Calendar or Google Sheets or Gmail or whatever it happens to be. It senses all this input and it takes action on your behalf. Now, again, you can have it ask you, questions before it acts, make sure that it's okay. Hey, Ted can't meet on Tuesday at 11. He wants to meet at Tuesday at 1. Or Jennifer can't meet on Wednesday at 11, but she can meet at Tuesday at 10. So the great thing about it is an agent can negotiate with all these different parties and set up your schedule and keep it in dynamic balance. So you would expect that agents are sensing the world, looking at the environment, making trade-offs, and acting on your behalf to the point of you feel comfortable on it acting for you. At some point, you're not going to be comfortable and you want to put in human-in-the-loop controls, and that's fine. So let's get back to multiple agents. Multiple agents are exciting, and they're fun, and they're interesting to work on. It's great to see, how people use these, because you set them up, you think they're going to, act in a linear fashion. Generally, they don't. They branch and they come back in and they go back and they, do all sorts of recursive processing. It's a very intriguing kind of environment to watch. We're seeing a great deal of dynamism in the environments. Now, the one thing that we do need to talk about, and one thing you need to know right now, is that there are, I think the last time I looked, there were over 200 agent frameworks out there. This is a very dynamic market. Many people thought, Gen AI and large language models was dynamic, but the agent marketplace makes that look like it was glacial pace. So agents are out there, hundreds of agents frameworks are out there. And right now, they don't interoperate. Many of us have heard about Model Context Protocol, MCP. We've heard about ACP, Agent Context Protocol. And we've heard of A2A from Google, Agent to Agent. And these are all different communication protocols and communication frameworks is really what they are. So the state of the market today, forget about the intelligent or the simple, intelligent, polymorphic, just the state of the market right now for agents is that if you decide that you're going to use, let's just state a few of the agent frameworks, Crew AI, AutoGen, Semantic Kernel, and like I said, 197 others that are out there. Sorry. If you said, okay, I'm going to have my finance group build agents in Crew, and I'm going to have my development group build agents in Semantic Kernel, and I'm going to have my supply chain team build agents in AutoGen. So what have you done there? You've diversified your technology risk because you've got 3 different groups building in 3 different frameworks. But you've increased your training load because you have to understand those 3 different frameworks. And then the real problem is not really anything training or anything like that or capabilities of the frameworks. It's the fact that at this point, none of those agents could talk to each other. So all the agents built in Crew can talk to the other Crew agents. Those on Semantic Kernel can do the same. And those with AutoGen can talk to other AutoGen agents. But Crew can't talk to AutoGen, Semantic Kernel can't talk to Crew, and I expect that to change as MCP and A2A and ACP evolve, and they probably will evolve rather rapidly. But at this point, if you decide to use multiple frameworks in your environment to develop agents in different workflows, those will not be able to connect. And then the example I gave, you were talking about finance, development, and supply chain. Maybe the agents they're developing don't have to talk to each other. So that's not really an issue if that's the case. But as most of us know, it's hard to predict what's going to happen and how things are going to move in the future. So having interoperability is a very, very important thing. So right now, what I'm counseling people on is that, look, pick a technology that can work across the whole organization, if you can. often you can't. You can't predict or project, what you need in supply chain versus marketing versus pricing versus manufacturing and whatever else. But if you can pick a technology, Microsoft is obviously getting behind semantic kernel. Microsoft is also somewhat supporting AutoGen as an open source platform. Google with Vertex and A to A, agent to agent, is making their play for an open environment, open source and open in general. So it really depends on what works for you and your organization and how you want to make that work. And I think most people understand the dynamics between Google and Microsoft at this point. If you're a Microsoft shop and that's what you're going to work on and that's where you're going to focus your stack, then AutoGen and semantic kernel are just fantastic technologies, and maybe that's where you want to spend your time. But if you're more aligned to Google and you have more of an open viewpoint on it, then maybe that's the direction you want to go. Anyway, the thing to keep in mind is that the agent marketplace is dynamic, it's growing fast, it's exciting, there's a lot of things going on in there, and all the dynamics that we've seen before, closed systems, open source, proprietary, all those different kind of things are there. Right now, what I would suggest you do is that you pick a technology that is generalizable across your whole organization. You find a business process that you're interested in. Many people, surprisingly enough, it's surprising to me, and maybe other people are not surprised by it. Many people are experimenting with agents in HR. HR processes are probably the most examined and the most automated through agents that I've seen in the last 6 months. So reviewing resumes, examining, different interview scripts, evaluating candidates, doing different things, writing offer letters. So HR is in an area where it's fertile for experimentation. And, I'd probably get some pushback on this, but why are people, experimenting in HR? Because it's generally an internally focused process, at least the processes that they're building agents for, culling through resumes, looking at different letters, offer letters. One of them that's really easy is to make sure that an offer letter is compliant, that the salary is correct, in the right range, the title is correct, the person you're making the offer is appropriate, all the different elements, because offer letters are legal documents. So you want to make sure that they're accurate when they're going out. And it's nice to have an agent reviewing those somewhere in the process. You're obviously going to have humans doing it as well. But HR is turning out to be a fertile ground for agent experimentation. Now you have plenty of other, operational areas that Gen AI agents could work in. I'm a fan of agents in legal, and why is that? Because there's a lot of work in legal and procurement with contracts, and contracts are very detail oriented. I guess one way to say it, they're legal documents as well. So you want them to be very specific and accurate. And we're in a time and place now where data is being elevated. What does that matter, to legal contracts? Well, it makes a big difference. If you have the right clauses in your contracts that you can actually use data in the way you'd like to improve your business. Many organizations do not have the right clauses or appropriate clauses in their contracts to allow them to use data for their own internal improvement and for the benefit of their clients. So you may want to build an agent that says, hey, we want to review all the contracts for all the clients we've ever had, all the way back to the beginning of the organization, and make sure that if we don't have the appropriate clauses for data use or protection or privacy or operation in the EU or across the world that should be in those contracts, that the next time we revise that contract or renew it, we want to make sure we make an attempt to include these new clauses in it. So, let's do a really quick recap. We're, coming up on the end of this session where we've got a few minutes, but I want to make sure that we are all clear on what I've talked about and where we should be focused and what we should be aware of today. So we have simple agents, we have intelligent agents, we have polymorphic agents. Those are all cool, they're great. And simple agents been around for a couple years. Intelligent agents is where all the focus is today. Polymorphic agents going to be 2 to 3 years out from now. There are at least 200 agent frameworks that are out there in the marketplace today, and there'll probably be more tomorrow. You want to be able to use, those frameworks in an intelligent way. Right now, those frameworks do not talk to each other, but we are seeing technology that allows that to happen and will happen in the next few months or year at the very latest. And those are Model Context Protocol, MCP, Agent Context Protocol, ACP, and Agent to Agent from Google. So if you're building agents today, stick within a framework because we don't have multi-vendor interoperability at this point in time. So you don't want to get caught out where you have to explain to your boss or the CEO or whoever else in the organization you have to report to that you've spent all this money to build agents in supply chain, agents in manufacturing, and they can't talk to each other. That seems like a bad idea. So right now, use the technology that you can use across the different functional areas so the agents can interoperate and talk together, and keep a close eye on these developing protocols and frameworks. You may have to jump ship. Sometimes I've certainly done this where I've picked, a technology that I thought was really going to have a future and have a long run in the marketplace. Turns out it doesn't. Either the vendor goes bankrupt or they make bad choices on technology, or they, choose to do things that are unfortunate and it impacts the affordability and the economics or the scalability or, as I said, the technological viability of the offering. So those are the things you want to keep an eye on and keep your eye on now and make sure that you're making good choices so you look good in your organization. So at this point, most of the things you're going to be working on in the agent world are framework based. You want to set up, a good infrastructure and foundation so the whole organization can benefit from agents. So Gen AI is one of the general purpose technologies. It has impact across pretty much every function of the organization, and agents are the same. And you can think of agents as building on top of Gen AI and up, and then applications and different kind of process frameworks on agents. So, we have the foundation now. We have Gen AI, we have agents, we have frameworks, we have context protocols. And I guess one of the things that I want to reiterate right now is that I assumed this in the beginning of this conversation, and maybe I should have made it more explicit, is that Gen AI is, that horse is out of the barn. People are using it, making a difference. The leaders are actually automating and changing their workforce to be AI literate and to leverage and take advantage of AI. I do hear a few people saying that they're not sure about agents, that they're going to sit on the sideline and wait a little bit to see if agents actually turn into something. I can understand that perspective, and I get it, but the reality is that the longer you wait, the more of an advantage you give to your competitors. The reality is that Gen AI is real. It's happening. It's not going away. And we're going to see more and more complexity in Gen AI environments. The mixture of expert models are out there, and they're getting better and better over time. And agents are the same thing. So, your ability to build and leverage and take advantage of agents is going to come from your engagement with agent-based technologies. And we all get better the longer we work with things. So now is not the time to sit on the sidelines. Now is the time to get involved with agents, make some early decisions, put some money on the table, place a bet if you want to say, and start building agents in areas where you can feel confident that you can control it, the organization can benefit from it, and you're not exposing the organization to undue risk. So at this point, I would say best of luck to you. Come connect with me on LinkedIn or message me or ask me questions or whatever you want to do. I spend a lot of time. I spend all my time, looking at AI technologies and experimenting with them and driving innovation. So happy to connect and speak with any of you on email or social media or LinkedIn or whatever it is. So thanks for spending a half hour with me. I hope that you learned a few things that help you in your journey, reduce the risk in making choices as you go forward with these technologies, and best of luck in building your agents. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
For video highlights, replays, and more, visit insightjam.com.